Ever feel like you're missing out on some of those really sought-after DXpeditions?
Oh, absolutely. The ones that get ham radio operators
Mm.
practically climbing the walls for a chance to log them. Those are some rare contacts.
Yeah.
Like finding the Holy Grail for some folks.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to dive into a piece of software that claims it can help you win the race to the new one.
Catchy.
Right. QRHTERMINal. Ambitious, I think. So we'll unpack whether it lives up to the hype, what it means for ham radio, all that.
Yeah, and you know what I find intriguing about this one? It's making a splash even though it's only for Windows users. No Mac, no Android, no iOS. So that suggests to me that there might be something about this that's specific to how Windows users are engaging with ham radio.
That's a really interesting point. I hadn't even considered that angle. So for those who aren't familiar, how does this thing actually work? QRHTERMINal. What's its magic?
So picture this. You've got a direct line to this really bustling hub of ham radio activity. That's essentially what QRHTERMINal gives you. A telnet terminal, which I know might sound a little intimidating at first.
It does sound a tad technical.
Yeah, but think of it more like a specialized window that lets you peek into this thing called a ham radio cluster network.
Okay, so let's unpack that term a little bit. What is this cluster network, and why should, frankly, anyone listening care?
So basically it's this global network where ham radio operators from all over are sharing information in real time. They're talking about the stations they're hearing, propagation conditions, and this is key for QRHTERMINal, any potential DXpedition activity.
So it's like a live feed of ham radio intel, constantly updating with a focus on these DX spots.
You got it. That's a great way to put it. And this is where QRHTERMINal's so-called AI implementation comes into play. Now, before anyone panics, we're not talking about sentient robots taking over the airways here.
Well, that's a relief.
Right. It's more about some pretty clever algorithms that are sifting through this massive amount of data, and they're looking for those DXpedition gems.
So it's not just passively showing you information. It's actively looking for stuff. That's pretty neat. So what kind of algorithms are we talking about here? Anything unique?
Well, the exact details, those are kept under wraps. Proprietary,
Sure. Trade secrets.
Exactly. But we can assume there's some natural language processing going on in there, maybe even some predictive modeling based on past DXpedition data. It's cross-referencing info from the cluster with those ham radio calendars, bulletins, all that, to pinpoint these rare contacts, apparently with crazy accuracy, too.
So you're telling me it's like having your own little DXpedition scout working tirelessly in the background. That's impressive. But QRHTERMINal does more than just track these rare stations, right?
You're right. You can actually use it to make your own custom list of call signs to watch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a personalized watch list. So let's say there's a specific station you're dying to connect with. QRHTERMINal will let you know the instant it sees any activity from that call sign on the network.
So it's like setting a custom alert for your ham radio hit list, basically. That's pretty cool. Next level DXing for sure. But let's talk about how this software actually fits into the bigger picture, someone's whole ham radio setup.
Right. Good point. It's not just some standalone thing. QRHTERMINal can actually talk to your radio equipment.
Oh.
Yeah, it integrates with, you familiar with Air Rig software?
I am.
Okay, so, it's known for controlling a lot of different radios.
Okay, so what does it mean then to control your radio through this software? That's where I need a little help.
So picture this, right? QRHTERMINal, it picks up on a DXpedition that you've been, chasing. And instead of you having to manually tune your radio, it talks to iRig, and then and iRig automatically sets your radio to the right frequency.
Wow. So it's streamlined, the whole process.
Exactly.
Streamlined.
That's incredible. So it's not even just giving you the information, it's acting on it for you.
Exactly.
That could be huge, especially for those DXpeditions that are only on the air for a really short time.
Absolutely. It's a game changer, potentially. I mean, this really highlights how QRHTERMINal is kind of pushing the limits of what ham radio software can do now.
Yeah.
Not just accessing information, but it's about real-time control. It's blurring that line.
So with all these bells and whistles, I'm guessing there's a free version and a paid version?
You're right on the money with that one. IK6QRH, the developer, does offer a free version.
Okay.
But it does have some limitations, of course, mainly to kind of encourage people to upgrade, Sure, that makes sense. What sort of limitations are we talking about?
Well, for one, the free version only really alerts you to about half the stations that are listed in those in those ham radio calendars.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, yeah, it's like having a scout who's only working half the time, right?
Right, right.
And maybe even more important, you can't use that personalized call sign watch list feature that we talked about. That's only in the full version.
Okay. So if you're serious about this DXing, it seems like, yeah, the full version is the way to go. But you mentioned earlier that there were maybe some ethical things to consider about the full version, about its licensing. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so the full version, it's a one-time purchase, which sounds good on paper, right?
Yeah.
But it's tied to your, like, it's permanently linked to your specific call sign. So your ham radio ID.
Oh, interesting.
Which means you can't transfer that license to another operator. You can't even use it with a different call sign yourself.
Huh. So that is different from how most software licenses work. Is there a reason why they do it that way?
Well, the developer says that this is to prevent, like, unauthorized sharing, protecting their work, basically.
Okay.
And it keeps things simpler for them for distribution and support, because they don't have to manage all these complicated licensing systems.
I mean, I see both sides to that argument. Like, on the one hand, it makes sure that the developer is getting compensated, which is fair.
Of course, yeah.
But then it kind of goes against how we normally think about owning software.
Yeah, it's a different approach.
Yeah, normally you can transfer a license if you want to. So this is going to be interesting. I bet this sparks some debate in the ham radio world. Yeah, it's definitely a different way of thinking about software, that's for sure.
It really is. And you know what else it makes you wonder about? Like, what happens down the line, right? What if you change your call sign, or you decide to, hang up the headphones, so to speak, leave the hobby altogether.
Right.
You don't usually think about those things when you're buying software.
No.
But in this case, it's something to consider. But anyway, let's move on to what it's actually like to use.
Okay.
Because the website, I mean, they've got all these glowing reviews. People are calling it a total game changer and all that.
Right, game changer. So as someone who's, looked at this, do you think the hype is real? Is it all it's cracked up to be?
Just looking at what it can do, yeah, I can see why people are excited about it. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got the real-time alerts, the whole call sign monitoring thing, and then, it can even work with Rig.
Right.
That's a pretty powerful set of features.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it could really, really simplify things for people who are into DXing.
But does it take something away too?
What do you mean?
Like, part of the fun of DXing, for me at least, is the hunt, right?
Sure, yeah.
It's the research, the anticipation, knowing you might be trying for hours, days even.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you finally make that contact, it's like this.
It's a thrill.
Yeah. So does QRHTERMINAL almost make it too easy?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think there's a single answer that's going to satisfy everybody.
Yeah.
Some people, they're going to love the efficiency. They're going to see this as a way to, really maximize their time and up their chances of snagging those rare ones.
Right.
But others, I'm sure, are going to feel like it cheapens it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It becomes,
Too easy.
less of an accomplishment, yeah. Turns it into something passive.
Right. It's almost like the difference between, I don't know, spending months planning out this amazing trip,
Yeah.
or just calling up a travel agent and saying, book me a flight.
I like that analogy. That's a good one. And I think the point is both are fine, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no right way to do it. It just depends on what you're looking for. But look, the bottom line is this. QRHTERMINAL is pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
It's changing what we thought ham radio software could be. And you know what? We're going to be feeling the effects of this for a while.
Absolutely. It really is it's a fascinating example of how technology is. It's not just changing the tools we use, it's changing how we think about our hobbies even.
100%. I mean, it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
If software like this gets even more, I don't know, sophisticated, more advanced, is it going to bring new people into ham radio? People who are, really attracted to that efficiency, that thrill of the chase, but maybe in a different way.
Or will it just be the veterans, the people who are already really into it, who see it as a natural progression?
Right, exactly.
Those are great questions. And honestly, I don't think we have the answers today. But it is something for our listeners to chew on.
Right.
What do you think about this shift that could be happening? Is software that can do all this, is it a good thing or a bad thing for ham radio overall? We'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, tell us what you think.
But until then, whether you've been DXing for years or you're just starting out, always remember that at its core, Ham radio is it's about the joy of exploring, that thrill you get from connecting with someone who's miles and miles away.
Thousands of miles, maybe. Different continent, even.
Yeah, and it's about that sense of community that we all share.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow.
Well said.
So on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of QRHTERMINAL, this piece of software that's got everyone talking. It's sparking debate, excitement, all of it.
Shaking things up.
It really is. Until next time, everybody, keep exploring, keep connecting, and most importantly, keep those airwaves alive with the magic of radio.